Upon his return to Europe he was hailed as the second Columbus, as the scientific discoverer of America, as the revealer of a new world, as the great demonstrator of the sublime truth that universe is governed by law. I have seen a picture of the old man sitting upon a mountainside. Above him the eternal snow, below smiling valley of the tropics, filled with vine and palm. His chin upon his breast, his eyes deep, thoughtful, and calm, his forehead majestic, grander than the mountain upon which he sat. Crowned with the snow of his whitened hair, he looked the intellectual autocrat of this world. Not satisfied with his discoveries in America, he crossed the steppes of Asia, the wastes of Siberia, the great Ural range, adding to the knowledge of mankind at every step. His energy acknowledged no obstacle, his life knew no leisure. Every day was filled with labor and with thought. He was one of the apostles of science, and he served his divine master with a self-sacrificing zeal that knew no abatement, with an ardor that constantly increased, and with a devotion unwavering and constant as the polar star. In order that the people at large might have the benefit of his numerous discoveries and his vast knowledge, he delivered at Berlin a course of lectures, consisting of 61 free addresses, upon the following subjects: 5 upon the nature and limits of physical geography, 3 were devoted to a history of science, 2 to inducements to a study of natural science, 16 on the heavens, 5 on the form, density, latent heat, and magnetic power of the earth, and to the polar light. 4 were on the nature of the crust of the earth, on hot springs, earthquakes, and volcanoes. 2 on mountains, and the type of their formation. 2 on the form of the earth's surface, on the connection of continents, and the elevation of soil over ravines. 3 on the sea, as a globular fluid surrounding the earth. 10 on the atmosphere, as an elastic fluid surrounding the earth, and on the distribution of heat. 1 on the geographic distribution of organized matter in general. 3 on the geography of plants. 3 on the geography of animals, and 2 on the races of men. These lectures are what is known as the cosmos, and present a scientific picture of the world, of infinite diversity in unity, of ceaseless motion in the eternal grasp of law. These lectures contain the result of his investigation, observation, and experience. They furnish the connection between phenomena. They disclose some of the changes through which the earth has passed in the countless ages, the history of vegetation, animals, and men, the effects of climate upon individuals and nations, the relation we sustain to other worlds, and demonstrate that all phenomena, whether insignificant or grand, exist in accordance with inexorable law. There are some truths, however, that we never should forget. Superstition has always been the relentless enemy of science. Faith has been a hater of demonstration. Hypocrisy has been sincere only in its dread of truth. And all religions are inconsistent with mental freedom. Since the murder of Hypatia in the 5th century, when the polished blade of Greek philosophy was broken by the club of ignorant Catholicism, until today, superstition has detested every effort of reason. It is almost impossible to conceive of the completeness of the victory that the church achieved over philosophy. For ages science was utterly ignored. Thought was a poor slave. An ignorant priest was master of the world. Faith put out the eyes of the soul. The reason was a trembling coward. The imagination was set on fire of hell. Every human feeling was sought to be suppressed. Love was considered infinitely sinful. Pleasure was the road to eternal fire, and God was supposed to be happy only when his children were miserable. The world was governed by an Almighty's whim. Prayers could change the order of things, halt the grand procession of nature, could produce rain, avert pestilence, famine, and death in all its forms. There was no idea of the certain. All depended upon divine pleasure, or displeasure rather. Heaven was full of inconsistent malevolence, and earth of ignorance. Everything was done to appease the divine wrath. Every public calamity was caused by the sins of the people, by a failure to pay tithes, or for having, even in secret, felt a disrespect for a priest. To the poor multitude the earth was a kind of enchanted forest, full of demons ready to devour, and theological serpents lurking, with infinite power to fascinate and torture the unhappy and impotent soul. Life to them was a dim and mysterious labyrinth, in which they wandered weary and lost, guided by priests as bewildered as themselves, without knowing that at every step the Ariadne of reason offered them the long lost clue. The very heavens were full of death. The lightning was regarded as the glittering vengeance of God, and the earth was thick with snares for the unwary feet of man. The soul was supposed to be crowded with the wild beasts of desire, the heart to be totally corrupt, prompting only to crime. Virtues were regarded as deadly sins in disguise. There was a continual warfare being waged between the deity and the devil for the possession of every soul, the latter generally being considered victorious. The flood, the tornado, the volcano were all evidences of the displeasure of heaven and the sinfulness of man. The blight that withered, the frost that blackened, the earthquake that devoured, were the messengers of the Creator. The world was governed by fear. Against all the evils of nature there was known only the defense of prayer, of fasting, of credulity and devotion. Man, in his helplessness, endeavored to soften the heart of God. The faces of the multitude were blanched with fear and wet with tears. They were the prey of hypocrites, kings and priests. My heart bleeds when I contemplate the sufferings endured by the millions now dead, of those who lived when the world appeared to be insane, when the heavens were filled with an infinite horror, who snatched babes, with dimpled hands and rosy cheeks, from the white breasts of mothers, and dashed them into an abyss of eternal flame. Slowly, beautifully, like the coming of the dawn, came the grand truth that the universe is governed by law, that disease fastens itself upon the good and upon the bad, that the tornado cannot be stopped by counting beads, that the rushing lava pauses not for bended knees, the lightning for clasped and uplifted hands, nor the cruel waves of the sea for prayer, that paying tithes causes rather than prevents famine, that pleasure is not sin, that happiness is the only good, that demons and gods exist only in the imagination, that faith is a lullaby sung to put the soul to sleep, that devotion is a bribe that fear offers to supposed power, that offering rewards in another world for obedience in this is simply buying a soul on credit, that knowledge consists in ascertaining the laws of nature, and that wisdom is the science of happiness. Slowly, grandly, beautifully, these things are dawning upon mankind. From Copernicus we learned that this earth is only a grain of sand on the infinite shore of the universe, that everywhere we are surrounded by shining worlds vastly greater than our own, all moving and existing in accordance with law. True, the earth began to grow small, but man began to grow great. The moment the fact was established that other worlds are governed by law, it was only natural to conclude that our little world was also under its dominion. The old theological method of accounting for physical phenomena by the pleasure and displeasure of the deity was, by the intellectual, abandoned. They found that disease, death, life, thought, heat, cold, the seasons, the winds,